So this is week 2, Teach One Another with my dad. And we're talking about chapter 2, constitutional law. So do you remember what the Constitution is set up for?
Govern the people.
Yep. So the foundation of our government and the laws, not just the government, but the laws as well. And George Washington referred to it as a miracle by saying that it appears to me, then, little short of a miracle, that the delegates from so many different states should unite on forming a system of national government so little liable to well-founded objections. And that makes me think of now, where they can't get along with each other.
Well, they're not willing to give and take.
No, they're not willing to give and take, but they were willing, even though they didn't agree.
You've got to, you're not always going to get your way completely. You need to.
But they were willing to, back at, this time, they were willing to put aside the differences for the good of the people, which I think is sometimes missed. So, businesses and commerce are affected by the Constitution, what's in it, and how it is interpreted, which makes sense because there's got to be checks and balances for everything, not just certain laws, but every aspect.
Businesses are no different. They've got to have rules and regulations.
So the government is based on federalism, where authority to govern is divided between the states and the federal. So there are state rules and regulations and federal rules and regulations that are set up. So the general structure of the Constitution allocates authority between state and federal governments, and then allocates federal power between the three branches of government, which who can remember all three? But it's the executive, legislative, and judicial. So the legislative powers, that's where Congress makes the laws. Executive is where the president enforces the laws. And modern presidents have had a little bit more broad power when it comes to that in domestic and foreign affairs. And then the judiciary is where the courts determine constitutionality of the laws, which goes further into judiciary review, where they can declare federal or state actions as being unconstitutional or violates the Constitution, which I think we've seen before with things, years and years and years and years and years going on. So, and then we've got all the amendments, but the first 10 amendments are the Bill of Rights, which I can never list all 10. I can do 1, 2, maybe 4, maybe 5, and then the rest I'm like, I can't remember. So it's like I need to go back and reread all of it. But the 14th Amendment, though, was added in 1868, which requires states to provide due process and equal protection of the laws of the United Citizens. It was like an additional saying, hey, this is what you need to do. You need to still, enforce the law, but do it in the right way. So Congress is given 2 types of specific powers. So there's the enumerated, which are expressly given, and implied, which are, we can talk about implicitly. There's 2 different types, but the main one, the one that focuses all of it on, is the enumerated, which has 3 primary ones. We have the Commerce Clause, which allows Congress to make laws relating to commerce among various states. So they used to be strict about this. That changed in the 1930s with President Roosevelt's New Deal, where they were wanting more federal action to fix the economy. So the Supreme Court said, okay, we're going to have a little bit more leeway and loose the reins a little bit.
And this has happened a lot of times. They have to go back and ease up or change the laws to meet the times.
Yep. And that's the theory that it talks about, that it's a living, breathing constitution, that it has to adjust with the time that we're in.
It's a living document where it can be,
Yep.
The basics aren't changed, but things are added and subtracted as needed.
And I think people forget that too, and it's sad. So the other authority is the taxing authority. That's the next one. So government, just like a business, can't work without having some form of income or revenue. So that's why Congress has the ability to, as it says in the book, lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and exercises. And courts will usually uphold any taxing measures as long as it's intended to generate revenue. And it's more of a regulatory clause and it's more broad than it used to be. So, like I said, as things have gone on,
Yeah,
things have changed.
You got to have money to run the country.
Sadly, yes.
The people who are living here are the ones that pay it.
Yeah.
You know,
which goes into the spending clause, which is the last one the power that Congress has. So it's used to encourage states to take actions that Congress has prioritized and broadly interpreted as well. So, like granting, funds for highways if a state has a legal drinking age of 21, or granting federal funds if they do this or this and this. So it's kind of like, you do this, we give you this money. So I thought that was interesting. I was like, oh, that makes more sense now as an adult than it did in high school.
I think the tax system may be not fair to everybody, but
no, it's still, like I said, I think it's still like there are things that need to be adjusted, everywhere. But I mean, we still have to be taxing to be able to run it.
It's the best system, basically.
It works to a point. Yeah. So, and then, of course, the next big part is talking about the amendments of the Constitution. So we've got the first 10, the Bill of Rights, and that does go into business law because it prohibits the federal government from taking, or is also known, infringing on those rights. And again, mentioning the 14th Amendment, that this is that applies to state governments as well. It's not just federals that have to, it's state. So the First Amendment guarantees freedom of speech, including gestures and other means of expressions, but also ties into freedom of press. It's not absolute power. There are consequences. The First Amendment is the government can't take action. That doesn't mean that you're free from consequences from a business standpoint or company. And I think sometimes people tend to forget that. But it does also protect political speech for individuals, but also for corporations as well, if they want to talk about the political issues. But again, there is you got to be careful because there may be consequences from outside the government. Commercial speech is when information that is provided to us, the people, from businesses and stuff, like, this is a sale of a product, or this is more information about a good being sold. But the government does have a ban on misleading information, so you can't be misleading with your advertisements.
Yeah. Let's get back to
or illegal activity. You can't mislead.
The business I'm in, you state what's in the package, in the product, and it has to be exact and and true. And you can't mislead people.
Oh yeah, but that's not protected. If you mislead, it's not protected. But also defamation, obscenity, which has kind of eroded over time, typically was not protected, and direct threats are not protected. And of course, there's also the First Amendment, freedom of religion. And then the Fifth Amendment is all about self-incrimination.
Yeah.
You can not worry about incriminating yourself. So
it's a way of not saying anything.
Yeah. So that's, like I said, I've learned a lot more than I thought I would in the first week. So.
Well, good.
Yeah, we're good.
Did you make your time?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. But yeah, so thank you for willing to let me talk and let you learn about what I learned.